Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the VCT Verizon Game Changers, where we've got the top of the top, the cream of the crop. These ladies are duking it out. And today we've got a couple of matchups starting in that upper bracket and ending in the lower bracket. My name is Tanner Metro, and joining me once again is Samantha Naori Mizuki. Tims, first and foremost, how are you doing? And then if you couldn't mind, maybe giving the fans or anybody who doesn't know what the Verizon Game Changers is, give them a little insight.
Sure thing, Tanner. That's who that is, by the way. I'm super hyped to be here today. This is day 2. We got to catch a little bit of the action yesterday, and the action just keeps going. The punches just keep rolling here in the Verizon Game Changers. So let me tell you a little bit about that. This is an initiative designed to provide experience and a spotlight to elevate the women in the Valorant competitive community. Competing in games as a woman can be a daunting task, oftentimes resulting in a very real competitive disadvantage. So starting from this month, the Game Changers series and the Game Changers Academy will create a whole new set of competitions with the goal of building a Valorant Champions Tour that better represents the diversity of our community. The VCT Verizon Game Changers series will be a set of top-tier tournaments with large prizes on the line for the best performing teams. These competitions will take place around the world, with the very first one, that's right, the very first one taking place this weekend right now in North America. So thank you guys for joining us for it. I'm super stoked.
Yeah, and I mean, that right there is just nail on the head. Absolutely perfect, kind of talking about what we're doing here. And I think the biggest things is this compares to, I mean, just about everything across the board, especially when it comes to talent and especially when it comes to prize pool, right? Everybody has a chance to get their fair share. Now, although it does seem like one team pulling ahead, is we saw some matchups yesterday. I think 6 matchups across the board. And we saw teams that looked good. We saw, I think Yinsu said it perfectly. You know, we saw some stomps. We saw some close games. I think the one team that was pulling ahead is Cloud9 White, but we're starting to get a bit closer. Now that we're in the upper semis, we're seeing these teams, or I guess everybody as a whole, the competition gets narrower. 2 teams went home yesterday. A couple more teams are going to join them today, but I think we do have, okay, actually, we're going to head on over to that bracket and take a look since we are talking about it here. You guys can see exactly where we landed today based off of that information. Yes.
Look at that.
A couple of 2-0s across the board. As we said, we've got some close matchups. Now, Cloud9 White seems to be just the train that can't be stopped, just an unstoppable force. And today we're going to catch them face off against Dignitas. We're going to be looking to be that immovable object. But as we make our way down, if you caught any of that action, Sam, we had some really close games.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think that my favorite game so far had been the Dig TSM game, purely because, you know, these are 2 orged teams. Dignitas has been around for quite some time. TSM, very, very new. So that was far closer than what we would have expected. Quite unfortunate to have seen Fwogs and Watch This going out so early. But, you know, like we said, 2 teams have to go out. And I think they should be lauded for making it this far. So fantastic work there, ladies. I'm looking forward to seeing you guys in the future. The upcoming games, however, that's where the excitement is really going to start to build. Our upper bracket is filled with orged teams right now, which may or may not be surprising. I suppose you can be the judge of that. You at home, not you, Tanner. No one cares what you think. And it's first up C9 versus Dignitas, which I'm super hyped for because, of course, that's going to be the match that we're streaming right now.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, we've got that matchup here on Nerd Street Gamers 2 or Valorant _esports _NA. You already know where you're at. You already know where you're at as we take a look at our schedule for today. Now, Awa down in that lower bracket, this Gen G content creator squad who looked really strong, unfortunately, making a visit to that lower bracket is going to be awaiting the loser here in this matchup, and that's what we are going to be having. Now, a matchup that I was excited to hear that we were getting at first, but is going to be over on that mainstream instead, is going to be CLG Red taking on Moon Raccoons Black. And that is a matchup that I just want to give some love to. That Moon Raccoons team, their coach, Kevin Lilicious Lee, an absolute mastermind as a whole when it comes to coaching Valorant. And he was kind of the tip of the spear for that Mamba Mode gaming squad when they were just dominating that tier 2 scene. But more importantly, we might actually get to see that right here as we've got some replays of that action yesterday, just in case you missed it, to bring you up to speed.
And we had some really, really exciting plays here. This is actually from one of the games that we got to broadcast. Ellie being absolutely dominant, and Katie, one of the top performers in the series this week. In fact, I think she's the top at the moment. She's the top performer in the tournament so far. So there have been some really, really fantastic moments from a lot of these ladies.
Yeah, 100%. It's been whether it's weird picks or weird plays, they just seem to make them work. And you're starting to see that culmination here. Choba was another player who went absolutely huge for the CLG Red squad. And that series was actually insane. It went back and forth for stomps, a 13-1, a 13-2, and then went to overtime for their third map. I think something that nobody was expecting as a whole. And then Sholiana, you see the clutch up here, and this is gonna be one of the players that we're taking a peek at today. So we'll get there a little bit later, but just a name that's nice to see pop up in these replays.
And you talk about the wild and interesting plays, and of course we saw some really fantastic stuff yesterday with Fwogs running out with a double sentinel on split. It was very surprising. It didn't work out the way that they would have wanted, but I felt like there was some promise there. So I'm really curious. As I said, unfortunately they did get knocked out, but I want to see a little bit more of that, see if they can actually leverage that composition a little bit more. But for right now, we're going to be focusing on the C9 White ladies and the Dignitas ladies. They're going to be going head to head, and one of my biggest storylines for this match, which we're going to talk about in a minute, is this is a bit of a grudge match, because if you go back to the FTW series, the Ignition series event, that was the last time that these two teams had played against each other when C9 White was still magical. And C9 White, well, magical at the time, wiped the floor with Dignitas. So this is a bit of a grudge match, bit of a, we've had a couple of months to see, have they been able to improve? Have they worked on that synergy, that gameplay, whatever? At the time, they were kind of a mishmatch team that they'd thrown together. Now they've been together for a while. They've had that practice. I'm so looking forward to seeing how they match up now.
Yeah, and more importantly, I think this Dignitas team is a team that's kind of been starting to work more outside of just Game Changers here alone. They've been taking place. They did Game Changers, and then right after that, they just hit this most recent Knights Monthly Gauntlet. Now they're back in the Verizon Game Changers. So they're really getting their licks in. And like you said, just kind of a grudge match. Maybe Dignitas coming into this one with a little bit of a chip on your shoulder. As you see those lineups, it is going to be Katie in this time around. Jazzykin's going to be hanging out on the sidelines, cheering them on. But you've got Katie, Katsumi, Anidro, Mel, Alexis for the Cloud9 White roster. And then Emily, Rain, Milk, Thea, and Show Liana. Now, we do have, I guess more importantly, to kind of narrow in on what we were speaking about, right? We have this grudge match coming up. We've got Dignitas putting in all this work. Dignitas, way back then, when it was the magical roster, they put up a couple of rounds. We've only seen a couple of teams put up more than 5 against this Cloud9 roster, and I think these two players are going to be the ones to take a look at across the board. Sholiana up there when it comes to the ACS as a support player, not matching Katie, but she's up there for sure.
Yeah, I mean, so these are like the average stats, but there were some other stats that I had that I thought were really impressive. So Katie's headshot percentage is the second or the best or the second best in the entire tournament at 32%. Now, Sholiana only really matches up, or doesn't really match up to that, with only 18%. But that being said, if you look, Sholiana has 18 multi-kills to Katie's 15, and both of them have 10 and 11 first bloods respectively. That is wild. Okay, for a Jet, sure, 11 first bloods, go for it. A Sova with 10 first bloods is wild. And I'm really looking forward to seeing how they're going to, come up against one another. This is a head-to-head you don't expect too often, seeing a Jet versus a Sova. They're two wildly different roles in many different aspects, but these are two shining stars for their teams. Sholiana actually wasn't in the FTW tournament. She wasn't able to play, so they had Arianicus subbing in. So this is the first time that she's going to be coming up against C9 in an official. This is kind of her trial by fire. It's really exciting.
Very exciting, as we've got these maps all lined up for you guys. C9 gonna ban away split, Dignitas taking off Icebox, and I've actually got a correction. Alexis will be on the bench here for the first one, so we should see both Katie and Jazzykins coming into this, and it's probably because we're headed to Haven first.
Oh yeah, I was looking at some of these picks and bans. Dignitas banning out Icebox, Makes a lot of sense. If you look at their stats, they've never actually played Icebox before.
Mhm.
So yeah, you want to make sure that you're not running into that one. And it works out for Cloud9 as well because statistically it's their worst map. Haven is going to be interesting because both of these teams have in the 70% win rates on this
Mhm.
map. So I think it's going to be fairly close either way. And of course, we're going to probably be seeing that Raze matchup. Let me have a look here. So actually, no, we're going to have Emily on the Reyna versus Haven, Raze, Jazzy on the Raze. Now that's exciting because there's explosive power here for C9. They're going to be able to use those satchels, use those paint shells, get tons of damage in those small areas, whereas you're going to be focusing on the Reyna, trying to get those late game kills so that you can dismiss, so that you can heal a little bit and provide that extra support for the rest of your team, that kind of entry power. This is going to be a very, very exciting kind of head-to-head on this map.
And I think that Cloud9 White has really been spear tipping this, you know, the game changer scene, the female roster scene as a whole, and then now kind of doing that with Katie recently being signed, at spear tipping the 6-player roster. And we're gonna get, you know, to take really close looks at it throughout this weekend as to how that works for them, you know, interchanging, keeping probably your same jet op, right? You probably still have Katie playing that jet op no matter what, but your other duelists, your other agents can kind of flex around. And I think that's just, again, incredible to see something like that. Now this Dignitas squad, they're scrappy. That was one of the biggest things that I took away from that TSM series was they go down early. They're even losing on Haven. They managed to battle back on Haven and then win that next map on Split. And that just tells me that these ladies have so much fight. So no matter what Cloud9 brings, which is, it's going to be the heat, I think Dignitas will be ready for it.
Yeah, So what's devastating, I think, for Dignitas is that on Haven, because they bench Alexis, that means we have both Jazzy and Katie. Now, Katie, as I already mentioned, is currently the top performing player throughout the tournament. 3 of C9's players are in the top 10 players for this tournament. I mean, Mel, I have the stats here for her as well. So she's also got a 31% headshot percentage. She's also the IGL and a Sentinel player. She's usually on that Cypher or like the Killjoy. So like she is all over the place and she's dominating in every role that she plays. So she might not be that top performer statistically like Katie is, but she's invaluable to this Cloud9 roster. So when you come up against Cloud9, not only are you worrying about the explosive power of Katie in all of the statistical ways, you're also worrying about Mel because she's a powerhouse, because she's the brain. There's so much to worry about. And I think that that's going to make this kind of a head game for Dignitas, because I already mentioned how this is that kind of grudge match for them. So they've already come in like, okay, we've never beat this team before in an official. But they also know that they've had time to practice. They've had time to get ready for this tournament. They've been able to watch a lot of C9 tape because C9 have been competing in the bigger tournaments, you know, the VCT and so on. So they've been able to watch a bit of that tape as well, which might give them a little bit of an advantage. There isn't really a ton of tape on Dignitas. So maybe that's how they leverage themselves the win here.
Yeah, that's kind of one of the things that goes across the board for, I think, esports, traditional sports, whatever it is when you're the champion or when you're the best, when you're number one or at the top, it's really easy for people to look for ways to beat you because you're number one, right? Everybody's coming for that top spot. Now, on the inverse, you have a whole lot to take a look at when you're number one, right? Who's coming up next? And obviously, the teams across the board are doing their due diligence and doing their research, but I think you kind of hit a nail on the head there with Dignitas probably have so much research coming into this one. There is an interesting factor. I don't know when we see it, but Katsumi playing the Astra, I think that does kind of throw a wrench into things because it's an agent that feels just so wonky. All the weird stuff that happens with the gravity well, that the nebula smoke is, for some reason, the most like frightening smoke on the map to me. Whenever you see that thing pop up, it's like 14 seconds or 13 seconds, but it looks so daunting. It's an Omen smoke, I feel okay to just push into it, but an Astra smoke, for whatever reason, I want nothing to do with it. So I think the new agents coming into this one are going to be what helps Cloud9 in a sense. And I don't know, it's like I said, they're seeming like an immovable, I guess an unstoppable force. And I don't know who steps up. Somebody's got to be that immovable object. Somebody's got to knock these ladies down a peg.
Well, what I will say is that the Astra pick usually comes out on Bind, which is our map 3. So we need to get through the first 2 maps.
Yeah.
Dignitas have got to put up a real serious showing if we want to see that Astra. And I think Dig are going to try and close this one out before we get to map 3, because I'm not sure they want to come up against the Astra. You know, I was chatting with Moxie yesterday before broadcast, and she was saying how scary an Astra Raze combination can be, for example, you know, or an Astra Killjoy. You get sucked into the gravity well, and suddenly you've got a nano swarm on you, or you've got some paint shells on you. Like, what do? So I think you kind of want to avoid that where possible. That being said, we're actually going to see the Astra on Haven. This is a huge deviation. No, it's not. I'm talking nonsense. Astra on Haven. This is a thing that they normally do. And I misread my own notes.
It's not too bad, right? When you think about I think for maps that have like a lot of awkward angles and awkward corners where people just play all over the place, it gets a little bit harder to use that Astra value. But if you just say, you know, you're pushing C and you send out a star towards the backside of C just underneath the platform area, you throw out a gravity well and things start to get a little spooky because there's not a whole lot of places that you can actually play or off angles without being seen. So I'm incredibly interested to see this one. Now, this is the upper bracket semifinals. The loser will still have some life, but they're going to be jumping on down to play against Awa Awa later in the day, which is another very daunting team to take a look at. But more importantly, 3 maps ahead of us, and it starts right here on Haven, Sam.
And what I spoke about a little bit earlier on was the Astra, along with either a Raze or a Killjoy. C9 have both. The Dignitas are in for a really wild time here. C9 starting on defense. Oh, and Katie just gets destroyed, Tanner.
Whoa. Okay, so kills going back and forth there. Annie finding an absolute huge shock dart to grab that kill. Not necessarily making things even just yet, but definitely making that push hurt quite a bit. And like you said, Katie going down, that's a big one to have off the board and not a whole lot of utility. Jazzy has that blast pack, looking to use it, not for damage, but to try and find the positioning. The right clicks come through, and they land true. Rain is able to trade it back for a bit. Now we're down in the 1v1, and the pistol round goes the way of Dignitas.
C9 were not expecting just an absolute bum rush straight up through A sewers. Just was completely out of left field. And then, of course, you had Shirleyana holding down A long. She didn't move onto site. She was holding that kind of back angle. The post-plant position came in because they managed to get onto site really, really quickly, backing each other up. And the rest of C9, they needed to rotate. You can see that where they're positioned now on the map, that's, you know, they needed to get there, and there just wasn't enough time. The call wasn't made. And what's important to note is C9, they've only really got the Sova. Now, wherever it is that you throw the sonic arrow, you no longer have that for anywhere else on the map, which is why very often, like with Dignitas, you'll see the Cypher and the Sova for a little bit of extra information. So the rotation gets called way too late because of how fast Dignitas are moving.
Yeah, I don't know if Cloud9 were quite ready for that. The matchup against Frogs, you know, they're quite clearly at the top, right? And we keep saying that, but it can be easy to play a bit more, you know, passive or a bit more, I guess, scared against a squad like this. But Dignitas taking it right to him, and I think that's going to be the key here for this one. As that gravity well going to slow down a push for a moment. Milky tosses out the smoke. Now, nothing been committed. That spike's still down on the ground, so they've got 45 seconds and all of this Haven map to play with.
They've slowed down their pace a lot. So that first round, they knew it was pistols. They knew they just needed to win the gunfights. They took C9 by surprise. This time around, however, they're trying to play it a little bit more smart. They realize they can't do the same trick twice in a row. C9 will adapt way too quickly for that. But they've spent a lot of time. They're running down the clock here. And with a 4-stack on A side, C9 have read completely what Dignitas are planning.
They've got the read, but they don't necessarily have the weapons. As Annie finds another shock dart kill, and Mel picks one up with the classic. The information is there, and Mel not long for this world as Sholiana gonna answer back with shock darts of her own. Now, Jazzy, not much utility, not much HP, but able to find that upgrade in the Spectre in a 1v2. It is doable. And notably, it is that Cypher. It is that Sova. A lot of information to be had. This would have been the anti-eco coming into this. Dignitas surely should want to pick this one up, and there it is. Nice little headshot there as Jazzykin finds the dink. but it's just not enough. 2-0 we go, and we're headed into rifles.
And despite the fact that C9 read that so well, they were already preparing themselves on A site. They get a few pickoffs early on. They seem flustered. Dignitas seem really, really in control right now. But this is going to be the first round where we're looking fairly similar in terms of weaponry. So there's two rifles online for Dignitas, but we have full rifles for C9. It's definitely an advantageous round for them, but they need to leverage that. They had pistols the last 2 rounds. They weren't able to clutch it out there. Now we need to see, can they turn... That's an early gravity well.
Yeah, I wonder if that was a misclick. Katie did push up really aggressively, so maybe expecting them, if they're walking into the gravity well, they're trying to run forward rather than run back to spawn. But unfortunately, not much gained in terms of kills or information, but they do have a lot of space. This going A this time around, should Dignitas choose to head that way, it's definitely not going to be free.
We've got a much bigger stack towards the B and C site here. Because again, you've got your Sova on A, so that's your Sentinel locking down that site. Now, Katie has pushed quite far up forward. She is starting to retreat here, because that would have put her in quite a dangerous position. We do know how dangerous she can be on that lurk, but I think given how aggressive and how strong Dignitas have been playing, C9 are choosing to play this a little bit more safe this time. They're not moving prematurely. They're waiting for the call to be made that they can actually start to move. So now the call gets made. There are people coming towards A site, and still the rotations haven't come yet, because Dignitas have kind of baited them in the past. So I like this patience, but those calls need to come out really quickly if they're going to take control.
And Emily looking to do just that. Paranoia comes through, blinds Katie completely, but they're able to trade that kill right back. So the duelists working hand in hand between Katie and Jazzykins as the paint shells get a bit of damage. Not going to stop the plant. Juliana able to get that one down, and we'll see. She's able to sneak away to a post-plant position. Cloud9, first time here in the driver's seat, up 1 player, but still working against that clock. Up a couple of players now. It's all down to the last. It's Milky on the flank. The dash away. The knives are going to be popped, and a double updraft available. And he was clutch all day yesterday. Can she go clutch again here in this one? Yes, she can. Cloud9 on the board here from the clutch after Annie.
And that's an expensive round for Dignitas, because they threw in the Blade Storm as well. So that's really, really unfortunate. But it's a good round for C9. Thankfully for them, Annie was able to get that last kill there. Fantastic swing around the side. Now is where things get serious, because obviously both of these teams have like kind of wonky economy. Despite C9 having won that previous round, most of them died. So they don't really have enough to properly buy up. And Dignitas looks like they're maybe going for a save round here. Okay, no, they're going for like a half janky buy. That's what that's my term for it. I'm not sure what, like, if there's like an official term for it. My term is janky.
I usually call it a yard sale buy or a garage. It's like whatever you can find, whatever you can get. You're just, driving down the neighborhood. But yeah, exactly. It was fairly even though, as far as when it comes to the big guns, right? There were a couple of Vandals across the board, but Spectres, Bulldogs mostly. And with the Spectre, typically comes quick hits, as Mel's able to scoot away from that one. And we'll link up with the rest of the team. But Milky just grabbing so much pressure back towards the spawn. Picks up the kill onto Jazzykins, and that's a lot of utility down. And the showstopper now off the board. So one less thing to worry about. But unfortunately, it's that Jet locked down on the C site all by her lonesome, as that Spike and the rest of the team have yet to push up.
Speaking of lockdowns, Mel is actually 1 ult point away from having that lockdown, which could prove very powerful, but they're down 1 player at the moment. Oh, the trade comes through, but is it going to be enough to swing this back in C9's favor?
A couple of kills from Katie, the player to watch here, as she's going to use the blades this time around. That Spike going to be tapped and quite possibly just stuck, and yeah, there it is. Through the nebula, nobody could see anything. Katie nabs a 4K and Cat 1 on the way out. C9, against all odds, it seems, tie us up at 2.
Starting to find their rhythm a little bit here. Sometimes you got to kind of get used to another team. I suppose C9 have had a fairly easy run through the open qualifier and the bracket yesterday, so maybe they weren't expecting a team to pressure them quite this hard. Now they've kind of warmed up a little bit. They've realized Dignitas is not a team that they should be underestimating. The past is in the past. Yeah, they may have smacked them around a little bit during the FTW, but Dignitas have come back and they've definitely started working on their gameplay, and I'm really, really impressed to see how much better they're doing right now. So again, we got some interesting buys here. I think, curious that Milky went with the Frenzy. I think the Frenzy is still in a busted position right now in terms of running and gunning. And of course, putting that in the hands of the Jet, being able to dash in and out, it could be really, really dangerous. So they're just going for trying to get through a round so that then next round they can actually buy.
And this one sniffed out. They're trying to get that quick plant on B. The paint shells get so much damage. There's a showstopper used, not last round, but this, as Jazzy finds that kill on terrain. Spike now on the ground, has since been picked up, trying to retreat that gravity well. Gonna buy some time, and there's that lockdown that you spoke about, just cutting down the clock on Dignitas. Tried and true. Let's go ahead and go try and see what we can do here. Try our hand at this C site. Little do they know, Katsumi hanging out towards the back of site, sprays one down. Spike now falling. It's against the pistols, and she's just mowing them down. But Sholiana, the showcase player here for Dignitas, picks up one. Low on HP, unfortunately, not going to be able to do too much here. Just try and survive. Maybe hang on to this ghost. At the end of the day, you'll be able to buy next round, so no big deal. And I guess notably, Hunter's Fury online. Not to be used here, obviously, but I'm going to be peeking at that one for the next couple of rounds.
Interesting, impressive how much value Sholiana is being able to get with this ghost. She's going to try and get maybe one exit frag here if she can. She gets spotted out. And that's the 3K for Annie. I'm really impressed with how well C9 have been able to read the tempo and the flow of the game. No matter where Dignitas go, it feels like C9 just know. They've got such a good read on what Dignitas want to do and how they're planning to play their game. And now as we move into this next round, Katsumi's got her ultimate available. And we know, I mean, that wall is terrifying. It's oppressive. You talk about the smoke and how you don't want to walk through that. I don't even want to see that wall. If I see that wall, I'm leaving the server, right? Like that wall is so scary. And then the Hunter's Fury, like you mentioned, if they can combine that to kind of shut down a plant, it could be devastating. But there is still the Cypher Cam available and a counter Hunter's Fury, which will be amazing in a post-plant situation.
Yeah, we see that same smoked gravity well. I wonder if that's just to threaten the sewer's control. One round you send Katie that way, the next round you don't. But either way, Dignitas will have to start using utility to be able to clear that out. And we do see that with the drone being used, and they do get quite a bit of information. But yeah, at first it seemed like a misclick, and I was thinking about maybe asking that question if we get an interview at the end of things and see, you know, is that something you guys have been working on? But clearly that seems to be the play. And this is something that we saw FaZe do in the past, where Marv just constantly on this defensive side just takes a short control and doesn't give up anything, basically locking down this A site all by himself. So seen some adaptations of their own on the Cloud9 side. Sholiana through the wall, able to pick up Mel, smoke down and all. Heaven not safe, as Mel is now 6 feet under the paint shells. Gonna try and buy some space, try and buy some time, and it does just that, as that spike is yet to be planted. But Rain goes right back to work. Hunter's Fury gonna deny again, though, and there's that ultimate that you talked about. Just so scary to have to push through that one, as Thea pushes a bit too aggressive and runs right into Cat. Spike is down, but how do you even answer this? You have to push through this wall just to protect the spike. You also can't hear it for the most part. It's so muffled on the other side.
And that means that they won't be able to use that Hunter's Fury. Oh, but the Hunter's Fury is going to come out anyway. It's aimed at the spike. Is it going to get some value? Not quite able to. Didn't need it, I guess.
That's a rough one. That is just a good showing of the utility that you have in the retake. They denied as long as they could. The spike gets planted either way, and then they're like, okay, well, we'll just toss out the Cosmic Divide and retake. And that is... I don't want to see more Astra, so please, Katsumi, stop making it look so good.
But what's scary is that it was a bit of an investment there from both teams. And now, of course, C9 don't really have anything coming into this next round. They're all fairly far off from their ultimates. Dignitas still have the Cypher, the upload, and now they have Bladestorm. And looking at Milky Way, she's not buying. She's going to pop those knives straight up, try and get a kill, try and pick up that gun. There it is, knives popped.
That last one feels bad to lose because it was that full buy. And again, it starts off over towards A short. It's the gravity well, it's the Nebula, and it's Katie aggressively posturing up towards a short, finding that kill this time around as Milky looks to get a bit aggressive, but vulnerable, a turret sprayed through the wall, everything right here standing in her way, making sure that this garage to C-take isn't for free.
And taking down the Cypher Thea so early on in the round means that Dignitas have lost half of their information gathering. They only really have the Sova to work with here. So on top of having the numbers disadvantage, they're not able to use the cam or the tripwires to try and get some information. They have to play so much more carefully now than they have before. And we've got a Jet on the lurk on the other side of the map, still with the knives out, waiting for an opportunity while the rest of the team moves towards A. So I'm expecting some noise to be made on the other side of the map. But Dignitas still need to be careful because there is a 3-stack on A.
You really would have liked to have not been spotted by that drone there. Didn't get any information, sure, but it did spot Emily pushing up long. And like you said, a 3-stack here makes it incredibly difficult to take this side of Sholiana. Finds that trade kill onto Katie. And he playing up towards Heaven, but we know that that's not the safest place to be against this Dignitas roster. And unfortunately, the knives just go wide. Milky Way not going to find that cut down. And the rest of the squad going to fall just behind her. Jazzykins to close it out. Cloud9, I mean, they seem to have a real control on this game.
Yeah, they've really got the swing of what they want to be doing as the map has continued on. And like I said, I love their intuition. Maybe it's a woman's intuition, who knows? But they're doing so well at figuring out what Dignitas want to be doing at any given moment. And again, I spoke about how important those first bloods are. So for example, in the previous round, for Thea to be taken down immediately, that gives you such a massive advantage. You know that you've shut down their eyes. You know that you've shut down their push. Now, Katie has picked up the operator. She's going to be chilling over on the A side. For now, it looks like Dig's moving towards C. But as soon as they figure out that there's an operator on A, they're probably going to be avoiding that one like the plague.
I thought they would be doing that to start, right? Because now I would imagine Katie starts to play around the map a bit more with that operator. And oh my goodness, through the smoke. Mel's able to pick up one. And that, I mean, it's an eco round, but it stunts the push so heavily there as the bouncers at the door in Katsumi and Mel. No way in. Spike now down on the ground. Cloud9 looking to push to 6 rounds here, and there's not a whole lot swinging in favor of Dignitas in this round. Maybe a weapon upgrade. We'll see if Thea can get done with it.
I mean, even if you get another 1 or 2 picks, okay, there's another one more. She's even putting the ultimate in as well. I mean, it's the... No ways. How much value can you get on an eco Dignitas? Okay, that much.
That much, yeah. That was looking so good. That shock dart kill to find the third, and it makes it a 2v2, but unfortunately, Sholiana just gets a little too aggressive and peeks down that barrel of the operator from Katie. And man, that was almost probably the round that turns this game upside down.
Yeah, absolutely. I think for having such a strong, powerful eco round, because that's unprecedented. You know, it doesn't often happen. You're not expecting something to happen on the eco round. Now, again, they have full bought, so economy looking little wonky. I've now caught the hang of what's going on with that gravity well. It's to stop Dignitas from pushing in like monkeys, like they did on that first round, and to add the invulnerable as well. And you can see Mel immediately start capitalizing on that.
And you said it right there, the vulnerability that it also adds, right? That gravity well starts to cycle. If you're in any part of that gravity well, when it pops, you get the vulnerability, so you're taking double damage. So even if you do want to zerg towards A, that's what happens. And it's another buy round here for Dignitas, and they're just getting absolutely picked apart across the map. No way in, no way out. Cloud9 continue their winning ways.
And this bodes a really difficult question for Dignitas, right? Do you push A, where you know the gravity well is going to slow you down and you're going to have that vulnerable and you're going to take double damage? Or do you push somewhere else, knowing that Katie has that op and not knowing where she's going to be? Because she was on A in the previous round, now she's on B side. So what do? How do you consolidate where you want to push in? C9 have such good control of the map right now that Dignitas are starting to flounder. And once again, it's another full save round. They have to. It's going to be another anti-eco for C9W. And if Dignitas can get away with another eco round like we saw previously, I mean, that's just, it doesn't bode well for C9. It might not tip the scales in Dignitas' favor, but it's not a good look.
And speaking of looks, that drone gets absolutely nothing outside of the information that Katie is playing B with the operator. I don't think it's spotted Jazzykins. And once more, we find ourselves in that eco round for Dignitas. We've seen them make it hurt, but we've yet to see them find the win in a round like this. And I think Jazzykins might be that player to keep an eye on if they look to push up towards mid here. It's a dash onto site for Milky, though, and maybe just trying to buy some time, buy some space, but there it is. Cat across the board and down towards mid. Jazzykins picks up two. They're able to trade it, but Thea has to go huge here with Sholiana, and nowhere is safe, right? You've got this, the rotation coming on over. It's still a 4v2. You can play for the post plant. We might just see that as that nano swarm gets popped. You're looking to get that spike down. 30 seconds left on the clock, but Cloud9 starting to swarm the Nebula, the gravity well. It's all starting to push him off. Katie up close and personal with the operator will find that kill. And Sholiana just does not have much going for her here in this situation. Needs to back away. Will eventually fall. The spike gets diffused and Cloud9 to 8.
I love the way that these stars for Astra are being positioned. So you got the one on the A site waiting for that plant. We actually saw that being used against Porthea as she was trying to get the plant down, get sucked into the gravity well. Even if she stops planting to try and run away, she's stuck in there. So she dies. Like that's what's going to happen. Then, of course, there's the star kind of on the A long site expecting a potential strong or very fast push, and I think I saw another one that they put outside garage as well. So they've got for chokes and they've got for on site to try and deny plants. Really good positioning of those stars.
And Katie remaining agile, mixing things up with that operator as well, continuing to peek different angles, which is exactly what you see. And now it makes A seem like, you know, the place to be, but again, you have so much to worry about, especially if they've got those stars set up. And now at this point, they can even feint that and scare Dignitas, because when Astra recalls those stars, it pops that Nebula smoke for a good little second. So it's never free as Katie gets smoked out this time around. 5 ultimates on the board for Cloud9. We'll see which they choose to use in this one, if they choose to use any. And I mean, the operator at this point feels like the ultimate for Katie. She just continues to find these kills, and Dignitas scrambling to figure out where to go. Now with one player down, Milky once more looking for a flank or a lurk or something across the map, but it seems the team's going to bring up the rear.
Emily does have the Empress available, though, which can be a very powerful tool to use. But as the clock is slowly ticking away, it looks like they're going to go for a B plant. Now, this is the easiest site to take, and immediately the Hunter's Fury comes out to deny the plant entirely.
And one answered back, but it's just a second too late. And he's able to cut 2 down to such low HP, and Milky gets caught on the lurk. So now you don't have a whole lot swinging in your favor. As Annie is able to close that kill out onto the Empress, dethroned at this point in the game. That lockdown also finds a detain on one. Thea just trying to get out of dodge. Stabbed in the back, and Sholiana, again, just not much to write home about here. Stuck in that 1vX situation and just cannot close it out. Now, last round of the half, and Dignitas, you got to start putting your pennies together here, scraping up what you can as far as a buy goes, because 10-2 feels a whole lot worse than 9-3.
Absolutely. Poor Thea as well. Towards the end of every round, she's getting stuck in some kind of CC. If it's not the gravity well, it's the lockdown. And it's just like, man, let me play the game. I'm really starting to feel for her. She does, however, have the Cypher uplink available. So hopefully that'll help them get a lock on. And they're just running straight into the invul again. Like, maybe just wait it out and then push forward. But thankfully for them, C9 didn't push in aggressive this time around. I suppose they realized that it's going to be a full push towards the A side. So they pull back and they go for the retake.
And a nice little 1v1 opens things up. It also takes all of that Killjoy utility off the board as Jazzy blindly fires that showstopper onto the A side. Doesn't find too much, but across the map, here we go. Up top goes Katie. Finding a kill of her ultimate on the board. Looking for more. No, Jazzy going to take that one away. Bringing out the operator. The spike is yet to be planted. The spike is in a horrible spot. The cosmic divide has popped and everything, it's all weighing down on Dignitas here at this point. As Sholiana only good for one at the end of the half here. And Rain, full HP in a 1v3, has a low health bar on Katie, but Annie ready to take the shot, does just that, and 10-2 we go at the half.
That's a lot of ultimates used for C9, though. I mean, they started that... Well, I suppose it was the last round, so... You just throw everything you have into it, and it worked out, I guess. So now, 10-2, like you said, not a good position to be in. C9 just need to win 3 rounds. Now, that being said, Dignitas won both of the pistol rounds in the previous half. So if we follow that trend, if they can win the first 2 pistol rounds, then they might have a chance. However, C9 immediately pulled things around. As soon as the pistol rounds were over, that's when they started picking up points. They lost the first 2 rounds, they won the next 10 in a row. So even if Dig picked up the pistol rounds, they need to really, really put something in here for this defense. Because C9's defense was... I mean, they had the Astra wall, but even without the wall, it was a wall defense. You could not get through it. They had that map on lockdown. So I want to see, how does Dignitas respond to that? They have both of the Sentinel agents, or the information gatherers, the Cypher and the Sova. They're playing the Cypher towards A. That makes sense. Oh, there's a pause. Okay, I was wondering why everyone was just like bundled up in the B sides. We probably have a tech pause or attack pause. I'm not sure which ones are legal in this tournament. Oh, halftime pause. That's a thing. I didn't know that was a thing. How did I not know that was a thing?
Yeah, today is the first day that I was kind of leaning that way, just because I had seen it just about every time, and I'm like, man, are these teams really taking pauses at halftime perfectly, like across the board? It's been, 3, 4, 5, 6 different teams we've seen. So that makes sense. It gives you a time to kind of recollect yourself, and that's exactly what Dignitas need to do, right? This is a very important round to start to get, the show on the road. And I'm interested to see what Cloud9 can continue to do with this comp, because Astra on defense feels a whole lot easier than Astra on the attacking side.
Oh, Dig are playing their defense like they played their first attack. They're just going to run outside. Okay, no, they pull back. They notice there's nothing actually in B mid and they pull back. I think a full-scale aggressive rush through B would have been questionable. But instead, they're opting to play it a little bit more safely. They've only got one person on the B side, however, and that's where the spike is. So they're going to need to rotate fairly soon.
Spike down, C.
Spike does go down, though, as Rain finds that kill onto Mel. Cat was there to trade it back. Now, the rest of the team should be able to pick that one up, so Cat can hold it down here on this site. And has 1 star to waste as Katie falls to the hands of Thea as the classic, but the kills just continue back and forth as the spike gets planted. That shock dart finds a bit of damage on the way out, and Dignitas looking to get something going here. Milky picks up 1, but Jazzy is there to answer once more. Therefore, the trade kills. Who better than? Now Thea, toe-to-toe. Annie in that 1v1 looking for the clutch. And as I said yesterday, so clutch. Today already proving clutch, and does it again as Cloud9 net the pistol.
I loved watching how seamless Katsumi is with that Astra. She runs all the way onto back side, recalls one of her stars, quickly puts up a smoke, moving towards the defender's spawn area, and she's so quick on it. One of the things I noted about Astra when she came out was it would be reasonably difficult to use kind of mid-game. You could use it very early on in the round, but as soon as you go into that Astral form, you're insanely vulnerable. If Dignitas had pushed out as she was busy using it, she would have been in danger, but she was so quick, so seamless, that even if they'd pulled out, she might still have been able to come out on top in that battle. So I'm really impressed by the way she's playing this agent.
And although a lot of time to play the agent, I believe this is one of the first, if not the first weekend that it's been allowed in competitive play. So to bring it out like this, it's just a really good showing as a whole. Now Milky Way looking to have a good showing. Unfortunately, not able to get it there. 2 for 1 though across the board. It's even for a second, and then it's not. They all start to get cut down, but Theo with the Bulldog upgrades in the round from Ghost to Bulldog and slices through this Cloud9 roster.
3 HP and a dream, and she does make that dream come true. And that's, I mean, it's a much needed round, because if they'd lost that, they would be on match point. So they're in a very, very precarious situation here. Any round that they lose puts them on match point. It's not quite as dangerous as being on perpetual match point, but it's still, you're kind of teetering on the edge. You need to be careful. And even now, after winning that round, Dignitas are not able to buy out properly. Thankfully, C9 not able to buy either. So it is going to be like a save versus one of them half janky buys. And we'll see which team manages to come out on top here. Dignitas' defense in that last round looked really solid.
And with the pistols, Cloud9 just going right back to it. Thea now taking off the board. There's a couple of upgrades on this C side as that spike looks to get planted here. Mel going with a couple of fakes, seeing what they can bait out. No, just trying to dodge out on those shock darts. So a nice lineup there. Going to buy some time, but a whole lot left on the clock.
Spike planted.
And way more than you need to get that spike planted. As Sholiana takes down the turret, and as you pointed out, that lurk, Emily could be huge in this round. Katie is there, sniffs it out, but falls no matter. Dismissed to safety in the 3v3. The Arsenal not in favor of Cloud9 this time around. Cat with the Sheriff in hand, looking to do the Proto cosplay in this one. The Ion Sheriff, it gets the buff, but not enough this time around. Dignitas move to 4, and like you said, backs against the wall. It's the best time to turn it on.
That smoke, I don't know how she didn't walk through the smoke. She just didn't see anything, so she has to back out. And because she has to back out, she immediately loses that gun battle. That's really, really fantastic work from Dig. And I was a little bit concerned there because Thea went down really early in the round. She obviously holding down the C site. She's on site as C9 push on. So she has to pull back and try and get 1 or 2 picks. She does manage to take one down, but she goes down super early. And I thought, wow, that's really, really unfortunate for Dignitas. How do they respond to this? And they respond with patience. And they slowly work their way in. And they get that retake. Very, very dominant showing. But now, Katie has popped the Blade Storm. We know, again, how powerful this ultimate can be. We've seen her do some crazy flick shots up in the air and around the sides. And she's not going in overly aggressive either. She's still playing this relatively patiently. Again, not underestimating their opponent.
And we also saw some of that Astra tech being used there. Katie went up top with the updraft, and Katsumi had actually used a gravity well out towards long, where typically people will be holding that angle. Unfortunately, not going to find anything this time around, as that lockdown is going to be used towards A, but it's a fake. They're just trying to buy the rotates here.
Oh, here we go. There's that Astra getting so much utility out. That's a big headshot as well. No way. Still able to lock down this site. So now, once again, we have to wait to see how do Dignitas respond to this. Are they playing that patience? Emily on a little bit of a flank this time around, but not as wild as previously. Very easy to get caught out of position there.
30 seconds left.
Yeah, and this is another huge ultimate used to try and buy some space, and they don't even use it to get to C site. So with 20 seconds left, Cloud9 head all the way back towards plan A after trying to choose plan B, which was over towards C, and they've invested a whole lot. Now they have to just run onto the site, and it does seem that they'll get that plant down, but they have all the information. In the 4v3, find ourselves in a nice little retake as Cloud9 set up on A.
Listening to that made me feel like I was in an algebra lesson, Tanner, please. My brain can't handle that many individualized letters. But that's a really good move from C9. They also utilize the Astra wall as well. So again, a little bit of a fake there. They do have the spike down. But Emily, again, on this lurk. And she's been so potent previously. If Dignitas can wait, they don't wait for her to get into position. Oh, no.
No, they just jump right on into it, and Mel is ready, chomping at the bit. But it's all up to Kat. Used the wall earlier. Doesn't have a whole lot going in her favor. Sholiana finds a nice little 3K. And it took a 10-2 half. It took losing the pistol. But Dignitas starting to come online here as they string a few together.
Despite not waiting for Emily to be in position, despite pushing in aggressively, I suppose they kind of had that timing down. They knew that jumping down from the rafters, Milky would still lose a ton of HP, but it's kind of that bait. You dive in, we're going to swing on you as they all swing to shoot you, and then we will trade off of your death. And it worked out so well. Dignitas are really, really creative in how they're running these post plants. And now we've got attack pause. And I'm really wondering whose tack pause it is, right? Because this is... Oh, it's Dignitas' tack pause. Fantastic. I was kind of thinking, okay, it's like an upswing for Dig. So C9 are maybe like, whoa, how do we stop this?
Right,
but it's Dig just kind of trying to reinforce this new game plan that's working out so well for them. And I want to see how do they level up now that they've had this tack pause.
Yeah, and so the biggest thing in the last couple of rounds is it feels like, for the most part, they're trying to play more retake and not necessarily take these individual fights. Do we love to see individual plays? Absolutely, but it's been the retakes that are really starting to work. So I would imagine, you know, 3 rounds happen, your back's against the wall, and you just need some time to digest the information that you just found for yourself. And that's what we're doing. Now, in that tactical pause, or I guess we're still in it here, they've somehow, some way come to the conclusion that the answer for the next 6 rounds to tie things up is the Odin.
I was just looking at that. I was just like, all right, I need to digest this Odin play.
Right.
Although, to be fair, we've seen a lot of teams using the Odin, particularly if you're kind of holding that garage area, which is exactly where Sholiana is right now. You can get so much value out of kind of spraying and praying through the walls. They also know that it's an anti-eco. So had this been a full rifle round for both teams, you kind of maybe feel a little less confident pulling out the Odin, particularly against a team like C9. But you know that C9 are on a save round right now. You know they're going to be coming out with like next to nothing. So you know you can try and abuse this gun at least for 1 round to try and give yourself a little bit more of a leg up. Because as I said, if they lose this round, we're on match point.
They are showing their hand quite a bit here in this eco round for Cloud9, right? The Odin out towards mid, the rest of the squad stacked up towards C, and that retake mentality over towards A. So C9 should get quite a bit of information in this round alone as the Sheriffs push on up through the smoke. Katie goes down. The showstopper going to be used, but only finds some damage as Sholiana is able to scoot away from that one. Now at this point, C9 at the very least have netted themselves some extra credits with that spike to come on through. Now the best gun in the game, the Bucky, is online for Mel. It found a kill and almost another. There it is, 2 kills with the Bucky as Milky was able to cut one down over towards this mid area. Now they have to get that spike defused. The Hunter Shuri is available. Now that Neural Theft going to grab that information for him, and Annie was probably the last line of defense playing off site with that Hunter Shuri. Unfortunately not going to be able to do that now. Mel, nice upgrade from Bucky. Oh my goodness, Mel gets it done.
Mel.
A 4K on the round, absolutely huge.
All right, calm down, Mel. Jeez. She's absolutely dominating this server right now with 20 kills. This is nutty. And like, so they bring in the Odin because they're like, yeah, C9, you know, save round, easy clap. No, like, never ever underestimate the power of C9, even with a janky buy, because as soon as they pull out the Bucky, you got problems. I mean, we even saw Dignitas do it themselves. They had a save round where there was only 1 player left alive, and it was Annie. So they had a really, really solid save round for themselves as well. Do not underestimate the save round. And now Dignitas, they got to try and pull this one back. So they've started by immediately popping the Blade Storm. And again, going to try and find an early pick, because those first bloods are so pivotal in kind of leveraging the round in your favor.
And like I said, I think that pistol round, it gave them a lot of information that they are looking to just play retake on both B and A, seeing so many stacked up over towards market or that C side as they're pushing through, and B was completely free. So now they do look to take this A side as Juliana with the Hunter Shuri gonna slow things down for now. Now taking the smokes off the board. That's a lot of Yuto, we've seen how potent Katsumi can be. So a good start here on map point. Lockdown gonna be used right on the site. And the Milky Way just peeks out a bit too much. The Blade's now offline. No Blade Storm available, no resets. Quite possibly means no round here, as Emily makes me eat my words. Now it's a 4v3. The Lockdown, it bought a bit of time, but Dignitas still have to go right at him from the shadows available. I can't imagine we see that as Jazzy Kids cuts one down. We're all tied up 2-2 across the board, but Dig just have to run in and send it. It's the Odin, the last one standing, but cut down where she stands. Cloud9 grabbed the first map.
Cut down in their prime. Poor Dignitas there. And that was looking so close. They were starting to really get themselves on a bit of a tear there. Yeah. And it's quite sad, actually, because they just had that tack pause. They were just kind of pulling themselves towards themselves, and instantly C9 just start dominating. And I think the danger of the tack pause is that you also give the enemy team a moment of respite to just say, all right, what are Dignitas doing now that they weren't doing in the previous round? How do we exploit the mistakes that they're making? That was a massive turnaround for C9, coming off of the back of winning that the eco for themselves, having won that, which allowed them to buy up, knowing that Dig were going to be in a very slippery situation economically. A great turnaround there at the end for C9.
Yeah, you talked about it. The economy seemed to be really what separated the teams there at the end, and obviously being able to pick up those 50-round wins bodes very well for any team's favor. Now, that's only map 1. We've got 2 more on the horizon should we get there. Guys, Ascent, the next one on the list. We're going to hop away for a quick break. When we come back, we got map 2 between Cloud9 and Dignitas.